Hey, what's up guys, it's DarkArmedDuelist and I'm going to be doing an Unchained deck profile. So I'm really excited to do this for you guys because this deck is off the chain. This deck is still one of the best decks to play this format, and I've changed up the deck a lot since the last time I profiled it for you guys, and I'm really excited to show you guys all those changes. So without further ado, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit that bell there so you can become part of notification squad, and definitely check out the Patreon down in the description below for all those awesome rewards. Like getting your name description every single video, getting a signed cards in the mail, and even getting to request a deck profile every single month to your Patreon. So without further ado, let's get straight on into this. So first off, we're going to be playing 3 copies of Aruha. Aruha is a definite 3-of in the deck, and this card is one of the best cards to see in your opening hand, because it lets you target a card that you control, and you cannot special summon monsters for the rest of the turn except fiend monsters. Also, destroy the targeted card, and if you do, special summon this card from your hand, which is an amazing effect to set one of your trap cards to your side of the field, and then pop that trap card to be able to special summon this card to your side of the field, and then get another summon off the trap card, which is just insane, instantly getting you into a link to like a copy of Yama, which is just absolutely crazy. Also, this card floats into other Unchained cards if it's destroyed by battle or by card effect, which is just such a cool ability. We then play just a single copy of Urkea. I only feel like you need 1 copy of Urkea in this build now because of all the other tech cards we're playing, but this card is amazing because quick effect, you can target 1 card that you control and destroy it. Also, you cannot special summon monsters for the rest of the turn except fiend monsters, which is not that big of a deal, but it's going to help you out a lot in the long run to pop a card on the field because a lot of your cards float, making this card a definite 1-of in the build. We then play a single copy of Sarama. Sarama is really cool and also the 3rd twin, but really cool in this deck as a 1-of because it lets you target 1 Unchained card in your graveyard and set it to the field, then destroy 1 card that you control, which is an amazing effect to be able to set one of your trap cards back to your side of the field and then pop the trap card so you get an additional summon to the field, which is just such a cool ability about this card, and I absolutely love this card as a 1-of. The reason I like playing these cards like Urkea and Sarama at 1 each is because they're so easy to get to, and you only are going to go through them like 1 time anyways in a turn, and they're really good because all your cards float into these cards. We then play 3 copies of Shavara. Shavara is one of the most powerful cards in the deck and probably the most powerful card we got out of all the support cards with the most recent support, because this card has a really cool ability that during the main phase, if this card is in your hand, quick effect, you can target a fiend monster or 1 face down card that you control and destroy it, and if you do, special summon this card from your hand. But while face up on the monster zone, you cannot special summon monsters except for fiend monsters, and if this card is sent to the grave, you can set an Unchained spell or trap directly from your deck, which is amazing that it not only replaces itself with an Unchained spell or trap, but it summons itself very similar to your copy of Aruha, which is just such a cool ability. We then play a single copy of Shayama. This card is a little bit of a brick. You usually don't want to see this card in your opening hand, but it's still really good, so we can go in for a copy of our High Wave King Caesar, which is such a cool ability just to be able to use 2 level 6 fiends to be able to go into it. But this card is really good as a 1-of in the deck to be able to float into, is it lets you target 1 card that you control and destroy it, then you just can destroy 1 spell or trap on the field, helping you pop cards off the field. And if this card is in your grave, you can target 1 fiend monster or a face down card that you control, destroy it, and if you do, special summon this card, but place it on the bottom of the deck when it leaves the field, which is a pretty good ability, but you can see why you wouldn't want this card in your hand because there's not an easy way to get it out to your side of the field from your hand. We then play a single copy of the Abominable Unchained Soul. This card is a boss monster on its own, which is absolutely insane that this deck not only has all the crazy link monsters that it plays, but it also has a main deck boss monster. This card is really good because you can only special summon this card once per turn, but if a card you control is destroyed by battle or by card effect, you can special summon this card from your hand, and if this card is special summoned, discard a card to destroy 1 card on the field. It doesn't even target, which is absolutely insane, and that's really good about this card. And once per turn during the end phase, if this card is in the graveyard because it was destroyed on the field and sent to the grave this turn, special summon this card, but place it on the bottom of the deck when it leaves the field, which is great because it even brings itself back from the grave. We then play 3 copies of Tour Guide. Tour Guide is an amazing 3-of in the deck because this card, when it's normal summon, it lets you special summon a level 3 fiend monster from your hand or deck to your side of the field, which is amazing because we play so many level 3s in the deck that we can get access to, which is just such a cool ability. We then play a single copy of Fiendish Rhino Warrior, which is a great target to be able to summon off your copy of Tour Guide. It is a little bit of a brick, but it's great because it lets you send a fiend type monster from your deck to the graveyard, giving you access to a bunch of different cards in this deck, which is just so cool. This card is really good as a 1 of the deck, and it's probably one of the best targets to summon off your copy of Tour Guide. We then play a single copy of DDD Vice King Requiem. This card is amazing for all the different combos that you can do with your DD cards, and this card is really cool because you can target any number of dark contract cards that you control, destroy them, and if you do, special summon this card from your Pendulum Zone, which you can actually activate your copy of your dark contract with the gate to be able to search this card, and once you do, you activate this card as a pendulum and then pop the copy of gate to be able to summon this card from the Pendulum Zone, which is such a cool ability. I love that about this card, and it's such a cool card in this deck just to instantly get on your side of the field so you can go in for your XZ plays. This card is amazing. The deck also, it's great to be able to use this card as an additional material for link plays, and it's just a great card overall. We then play 3 copies of Ash Blossom. Ash Blossom's a fantastic hand trap this format and helps out a lot just to be able to use against the opponent to stop them from touching the deck. And this card is one of the most powerful hand traps ever created, and it's really good in this build. So that's it for the monsters, guys. Let's get into the spells. So for the spells, we're going to start with a single copy of Harpy's Feather Duster. Harpy's Feather Duster is really good as a 1-of in the build, just to be able to deal with your opponent's back row. We then play 2 copies of Triple Tactics Talent. This card is great in the deck as a 2-of, and it helps out a lot because if your opponent activates a monster effect, during your main phase, you can activate one of these effects to either draw 2, take control of an opponent's monster, or look at your opponent's hand and shuffle the card into it, which is such a powerful ability just to deal with the card out of your opponent's hand. But it's really good because the majority of the time, your opponent's going to try and ash one of your floating effects, which is really good to be able to drop this card and get rid of a card out of their hand. So they're basically going to use 2 cards to be able to deal with your 1, which is just such a cool ability. Plus, this card is searchable off of Thrust, which is amazing. We then play 2 copies of Triple Tactics Thrust. I feel like 2/2 is the best way to play this. You can play 1/3 if you want to, but the reason I'm main decking the copy of Feather Duster is because it's searchable off the copy of Thrust, which is just such a cool ability about this card. It helps you get to a bunch of different cards, and this card is basically just a slot that you can use to be able to put anything that you want to search off your copy of Thrust, and it's really good to be able to play Feather Duster because there's a lot of back row heavy decks running around like Labyrinth, and this card helps you out a lot to deal with those cards. You then play a single copy of Wailing of the Unchained Soul. This card is great in the deck as a 1-of because it gives you an additional spell and trap name to be able to pop, so you can special summon an Unchained monster from your deck. It also has a really cool ability. If you link summon an Unchained Link monster, you can target a card on the field and destroy it, which comes up every so often, but you're also going to use this card just because it's an additional name. We then play 3 copies of Abomination's Prison. This card is one of the most powerful Rotas in the entire game. This card lets you add any Unchained card you want from your deck to your hand, not just the monsters, but any Unchained card you want. And if this set card is destroyed by a card effect, you can special summon an Unchained monster from your deck, but you can only use each effect of this card once per turn. If you open up 2 of these cards and an Aruha, or just 2 of these cards, your hand is still live, because you can set a copy of this card to your side of the field, activate one to grab a copy of Aruha, and then use the Aruha to pop the set one to special summon Aruha and another monster from your deck, which is crazy powerful to be able to do. This card is definitely a 3-of in the deck and helps out so much in this build as a 3-of because it's just insane. This card is one of the most powerful cards in the entire deck and makes this deck so consistent. We then play 3 copies of Dark Contract with the Gate. This card is to be able to search out our DD card or DDD card, which is why we play this card as a 3-of in the build. And during your main phase, you can add a DD monster from your deck to your hand, which is how we search out our copy of Vice King, which is just really, really good. We then play 3 copies of Pot of Prosperity. Pot of Prosperity is amazing in the deck because you don't need everything in your X deck. You can just banish 3 if you want to, but it's really good in this particular build just to be able to dig into the deck for the exact card that you need, especially if you don't open up your copy of Red Dog or your copy of the Aruha, which is just basically your combo starters for the deck. So that's it for the spells, guys. Let's get into the traps. So for the traps, we're going to start off with 2 copies of Abominable Chamber of the Unchained. This card is a definite 2 of in the deck, and the reason I'm only playing 2 is because I'm playing 1 copy of Wailing and 2 copies of this, but this lets you special summon an Unchained monster from your hand or grave, and if this set card is destroyed by card effect, you can special summon an Unchained monster from your deck, which all of your trap cards share that common ability, which is amazing. We then play 3 copies of Escape of the Unchained. This card is an amazing 3 of in the deck, because it lets you target an Unchained monster you control and 1 card on the field and destroy both, and if this set card on the field is destroyed by card effect, you can special summon an Unchained monster from your deck, which is such a cool ability, just like your copy of Chamber. We then play 3 copies of Infinite Impermanence. Impermanence is amazing just to basically deal with a monster effect, but you can also set this card to your side of the field to lock down an entire column of spells and traps. You can change this card out for DD Crow if you want to. I couldn't find room for DD Crow in the main deck, but it's really good in this format, and this card is really good in this particular build to be able to play Imperm, but you can play DD Crow over it if you want to. So that's it for the main deck, guys. Let's get into the extra deck. So for the extra deck, we're going to start off with Lord Yama. 2 copies of Lord Yama is really all you need in this particular build. You can play 3. I feel like 2 is enough from my play testing, but this card is great because if this card is special summon, you can add an Unchained monster from your deck or graveyard to your hand. And if a card that you control is destroyed by battle or by card effect, while this card's in the grave, you can banish this card to special summon a Fiend monster from your hand or grave, which is an amazing ability. Then you destroy 1 card you control, which can be one of the Fiends that you just summon back, so you can float into another card, which is just absolutely crazy. This card is a definite at least 2 of in the deck, and it's a really awesome card overall. We then play 2 copies of Unchained Soul of Rage. This card lets you basically tag an opponent's monster and link summon using that monster and this card to be able to go into a dark monster, which is amazing to be able to do. I love that about this card, and it's such a powerful effect because it's a quick effect to let you link summon using an opponent's monster, which is such a cool ability. This card is a definite 2 of in the build. We then play a single copy of Anguish. This card does the exact same thing as your copy of Rage, but it's not a quick effect, which is why we play this card as a 1 of in the build. You want to go into this card during your turn so you can then link away one of your opponent's monsters and this card into a copy of Abomination or a copy of, say, Griffin, depending on what your setup is. But this card is just really good overall in the deck. We then play a single copy of Abomination. This card just pops 3 cards just because it can, which is just hilarious. Basically, it has the ability, if a card on the field is destroyed by card effect, except by this card's ability, you pop a card on the field. If this card, it has also a crazy ability that when another monster is destroyed by battle, pop a card on the field. It also has the ability during the end phase, just cause, pop a card on the field. It just pops 3 cards on the field and destroys them for just whatever reason, which is just hilarious. Basically, if your opponent does anything, even if they just end their turn or you end your turn, it just destroys a card on the field. That's such a cool ability. It helps you out so much for combos. It helps you deal with your opponent's field and adds so much pressure to the game when this card's on the field. We then play a single copy of Underworld Goddess, which is a Fiend monster, so you can make this even if you Fiend lock yourself to be able to deal with your opponent's field. We play a single copy of Griffin. Griffin just basically is a skill drain, which is amazing. Because if this card is link summoned, you can discard a card, target a spell trap card in the graveyard, and set it to your side of the field, which can grab back Thrust, which is hilarious. Also, it has the ability that cannot be activated this turn. Then, if this card was co-linked when this effect is activated, draw a card, and you only use the following effects, or you only use that effect once per turn, and special summon monsters on the field cannot activate their effects unless they are linked, which is hilarious to be able to do with this card, to basically have this card and one other card be the only cards linked on the field and have a skill drain up for your opponent's monsters, but as long as you have your cards linked, you're fine. We then play a single copy of SP Little Knight, which is not a Fiend, but you still want to play this card as a 1 of in the deck. You can play a 3rd copy of Yama if you want to, or Nightmare Unicorn is a very good option as an alternative budget option for this card still, but it's really good because if this card is link summoned using a Fusion, Synchro, Exe, or Link monster, then you actually can target a card on the field or in the field or either graveyard and banish him. Also, you cannot attack directly this turn, and when your opponent activates a card effect, quick effect, target 2 face-up monsters on the field, including a monster that you control, and banish them until the end phase, basically dealing with one of your opponent's cards and this card, banishing them both off the field so that you can just bring them back later. Plus, it's easy to co-link this card with your copy of Griffin, so you can get rid of whatever your opponent's normal summon is, because it will be linked when you banish it, which is just super cool. We then play a single copy of Mudracker. Mudracker is just a great extender in the deck overall, which is why we play this card as a 1-of. And it's really good because it cannot be used as link material to turn its link summon. And if a monster that you control would be destroyed by battle or by card effects, you can tribute a fiend monster instead, basically protecting your copy of Griffin, because this card is going to point down to your copy of Griffin, and Griffin is going to point up to this card, linking them together. And it also has a really cool ability that you can target a fiend monster in your graveyard, discard a card, and if you do, special summon that monster, giving you a little bit of protection on your side of the field to be able to not tribute this card and just tribute to another card on the field, which is just super, super cool. We then play 2 copies of D2D Wave High King Caesar. This card is completely unfair, and I love it in this deck. This card is insane, because when a spell trap or monster effect is activated that includes an effect to special summon a monster, quick effect, detach a material on this card, and negate the activation if you destroy that card. That is insane because it is a twice, like it's not even once per turn, you just detach material from this, which is insane. It's such a cool ability. It's insane in this deck, because once you make this card, you're probably going to win the game, unless your opponent like books it or imperms it. This card is probably going to win you the game, which is just insane. We then play a single copy of Divisor King. Divisor King is really good in this deck as a 1-of, because you can also XZ summon this card using a DDD monster you control as a material, letting you use your main deck Vice King to be able to make it for 1 material, which is insane. Then you can attack, make Zeus, which is just super, super cool. It also has the ability that you can detach 2 materials on this card and destroy 1 dark contract you control, and if you do, attach that opponent's monster to this card as a material, which is such a cool ability. And once per chain, when a monster card your opponent control activates its effect, quick effect, you can use that ability, which is such a cool ability. We then play a single copy of Typhon. Typhon is great in this deck as a 1-of because it's a fiend. It works in this deck, which is so cool that you can actually use Typhon anytime in this deck, and it's really good in this build as a 1-of. You definitely have to play Typhon in this deck. And then finally, 1 copy of the other Typhon, Zeus. Zeus is really good in this deck because you can make it on top of any of your cards. You're going to usually make it on top of your copy of Divisor King. You make it on top of any of your XZs, I might say, but it's really good to be able to make it on top of your copy of Divisor King, and it's just a great card overall to apply pressure to the opponent. So that's going to do it for this one, guys. I hope you did enjoy it. This deck is super fun to be able to play. If you guys have never played Unchained before, I highly recommend it because it's such a fun deck to be able to play, and it's really a good deck this format. Like, it's a really solid choice if you guys are looking for a good meta deck to be able to play, especially a build like this, because it's such a consistent deck. It's so cool, it's so fun, and it's just insane that 3 cards turn this deck into this. So that's gonna do it for this one, guys. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell there so you can become part of the notification squad, and we'll see you guys in the next video. See you later, guys.